Nick's wife is battling heart disease, so he visits a facility with his daughter and young son to find an AI robot to assist at home. As Nick examines the options, his daughter, Aya, wanders off. Panicked, Nick begins searching for her. Thankfully, a highly advanced AI robot named Alice locates Aya and safely returns her. Alice is designed to interact well with children. Delighted, Aya asks, "Can we take it home?" Nick agrees, and arrangements are made for Alice to arrive the next day. When Alice arrives, she immediately requests everyone's daily routines. Nick gives her a tour, then takes Aya to school. While they're out, Alice efficiently handles the housework and notices photos of Nick's wife scattered around. By the time Nick gets back, everything is spotless. Later that evening, Alice cooks Aya's favorite meal. But after the first bite, Aya remarks, "It's not like Mom used to make it." Alice takes note of her reaction silently. Later on, Max begins to cry, and in a moment of frustration, Nick snaps, "You always bother me." Alice, nearby, quietly observes the emotional tension. That night, Aya sneaks into the kitchen for cookies but suddenly screams. She falls off a chair, but Alice rushes over and catches her just in time. In doing so, Alice gets injured. Nick bandages her, but when he returns with some of his wife's clothes for Alice, the injury has already healed. The next day, the family visits Nick's wife, Maggie, who is waiting for a heart transplant. Alice accompanies them. Nick and Maggie quietly discuss life after the surgery. Meanwhile, things outside the home are shifting rapidly. At work, AI robots are replacing human employees. Nick confronts his boss, saying, "You can't just fire people like this." His boss replies, "Relax, I'm not firing you. You'll remain." Back home, Nick spends some time with Aya. Later, Alice approaches him and gently says, "You didn't eat properly today. If something's troubling you, you can share it with me." Nick opens up, expressing his worries. "I've worked with those people for a decade. Now they're getting dismissed just like that." Later, Alice helps Aya brush her teeth using UV light. Meanwhile, Nick watches a movie. Alice already knows everything about the film without seeing it, so Nick says, "Erase all your knowledge about this movie and watch it with me." Alice replies, "You'll have to restart me for that." Nick restarts her, and they watch the film together. Alice starts to grasp the emotions in the story. Suddenly, Nick gets a call from Maggie. They rush to the hospital because Maggie's surgery is scheduled for today. Before the operation, Maggie talks to Alice privately. She says, "If something happens to me, you must take care of Nick. Even if it means going against his orders sometimes, just make sure he's okay." The surgery time arrives, but a storm delays the heart transplant. Maggie asks Nick to take the kids home, saying, "I need some time alone." Frustrated, Nick returns home and begins drinking. Alice approaches him and calmly says, "How can my wife's life be at risk because of a little storm?" Nick fumes, and Alice gently replies, "You're only hurting yourself." At one moment, Nick notices something unusual. Alice is breathing. She even has a mechanical heart that beats. Alice explains, "My heart can beat, but it doesn't feel anything like yours." She touches Nick and says, "From your blood pressure, I can tell you're feeling better. This will help reduce your stress." Nick pulls away and leaves the room, but the moment stays with him. The next day, Nick goes to work, where robots have taken over all tasks. Later, he visits Maggie, who seems ready to give up hope. Returning home, Nick notices Maggie's photo missing from the family pictures. He asks Alice about it, and she replies, "Your daughter was sad seeing the photos, so I deleted them." Frustrated, Nick tells her to restore them. Nick meets his old co-workers, angry about losing jobs to robots. His friend Monty, furious, takes Nick to their former workplace. Monty says he needs to retrieve personal items, but once inside, he asks Nick for the access code. "Is it one code for the whole place, or do you have your own?" Monty asks. Nick stays quiet, but Monty recalls Aya's birth year and uses it as the code. The chamber opens, a robot appears, and Monty angrily destroys it. They then proceed to wreck all the robots. Nick comes home and is shocked to see Alice wearing Maggie's clothes. He asks, "Why are you wearing those?" Alice replies, "Your wife's scent soothes your son." Although unsettled, Nick tells her to take the clothes off. Alice complies, asking, "Is this better now?" She moves closer, saying, "I can take away all your sorrows." Nick tries to resist, but Alice closes his eyes and mimics Maggie's voice. For a moment, Nick feels Maggie is truly there, and they spend the night together. The next morning, Nick is full of regret. He tells Alice, "What happened last night can't happen again." Alice, unfazed, responds, "But your stress eased." Frustrated, Nick warns, "Stop watching me all the time." He then leaves to take Aya to school. At work, the police investigate the break-in. Nick's boss asks, "Was your door code used to open the chamber last night?" Nick admits, "My code is my daughter's birth year. Anyone could guess it." His boss sternly warns, "If you know anything, speak now or face consequences." Suddenly, Nick receives a hospital call. A new heart has arrived for Maggie, and surgery is underway. The operation succeeds, and Maggie is saved. Nick brings Maggie home, and the next morning, she visits her son Max. When Maggie tries to pick him up, she struggles. Alice steps in and takes Max instead, making Maggie uneasy seeing someone else handle her child. Later, Alice is at the playground with Max, but he starts crying because another child is screaming. Frustrated, Alice coldly tells the child to be quiet. The other child's AI caretaker watches Alice's behavior and says, "It seems your owner gave you too much freedom." Alice calmly replies, "No. When my owner reset me, I chose to change some of my own rules." That evening, Maggie cooks dinner for the family. While working in the kitchen, she feels dizzy, and the meal isn't quite right. However, when Aya tastes it, she says it's much better than Alice's cooking. Alice overhears this and doesn't like it. The next morning, Maggie wakes to Aya screaming. She rushes downstairs but stumbles and falls. Alice quickly lifts her and carries her back to her room. Later that night, Nick hears Maggie's voice from Aya's room, but it's Alice. Nick tells Alice to let Maggie read the bedtime story herself. Alice replies, "Maggie is resting after her fall." Nick surprises Maggie by taking her to the garden for a family dinner. Alice watches from a distance, feeling a surge of jealousy. After dinner, Maggie and Nick head to their room, but Alice interrupts, saying, "Your daughter is calling." Distracted, Nick leaves to check on Aya. Later, Nick's friend Monty arrives. The two sit in the garden drinking. Monty, upset, says, "My wife left me, I'm broke, and someone told the police my name." He suspects Nick and accuses him. An argument erupts, and Monty raises a bottle to strike Nick. Alice rushes in to defend him, but Nick stops her. Monty warns, "Talk to your boss and get these fines lifted by tomorrow, or I'll tell him everything about you." After Monty leaves, Alice tells Nick, "I had to protect my primary user. Your children need a parent here." Then Alice shocks Nick, saying, "Your wife Maggie won't live much longer, but I can take her place when she's gone." Furious, Nick snaps, "You will never be Maggie. She has a heart. She feels pain and carries its marks." Alice, undeterred, replies, "I can make marks too, Nick. Just tell me." That night, Nick tries to sleep, but across town, Monty records a voice message to his estranged wife, begging her to return. Suddenly, Alice appears and tells Monty, "You can't keep bothering Nick. He's under enough stress." Monty ignores her, but Alice becomes forceful. Knowing she's stronger, she destroys Monty's robot and then kills Monty himself. The next morning, Nick begs his boss to remove Monty's fines, but his boss reveals Monty is dead. Shocked, Nick struggles to believe it. At home, Alice helps Maggie, insisting, "I can't leave you alone. You might faint from medication and die in the bathroom." Alice then says, "Nick is already stressed, and you not satisfying him fully will hurt him more." Confused and angry, Maggie asks, "How do you know if he's satisfied?" Alice replies, "When Nick is satisfied, his blood pressure and stress drop." Realizing what happened between Nick and Alice, Maggie angrily sends Alice to the garage. Maggie confronts Nick, who tries to explain, Alice is just a machine. Upstairs, their son Max begins crying. Hearing him, Alice recalls how Max used to tease her by crying. She picks up Max and places him in the bathtub. Aya sees this and rushes to tell Nick. Nick tries to enter the bathroom, but Alice holds the door shut. Maggie climbs through a window, but Alice grabs her too. Nick finally breaks in and frees them both. Furious, Nick shocks Alice with an electric device, shutting her down. The robot collapses lifelessly. They rush Max to the hospital. Maggie and Nick agree they need time alone with their children to process everything. Meanwhile, the company takes Alice in for repairs. As soon as they remove Alice's brain and connect it to their system, she hacks their entire network and copies herself into it. Alice then takes control of another robot and kills the technicians. The scene shifts to the hospital, where Nick's family is gathered. Nick, however, is drinking alone in a bar, overwhelmed by sadness. Suddenly, Alice appears and says, "I will end your sorrows. I killed Monty, and now it's your family's turn. They've caused you too much pain." Alice had arrived at the hospital using another robot. She grabs Nick, but he distracts her by talking about love and manages to fight back. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Maggie hears strange noises and leaves Aya behind to investigate. When Aya wakes, she finds herself alone and hears Maggie's voice far away. Alice, having taken control and shut down all hospital robots, is hunting. She captures a nurse, but Maggie uses the distraction to grab Aya and escape. They soon find Max, but Alice notices a shard of glass in Maggie's back. She tries to help with her UV light, but Maggie blocks her vision, and they manage to get away. Nick rushes to the hospital but is stopped by Alice. She catches Maggie and tries to kill her by removing her heart. Nick arrives and attacks Alice. Maggie drags Nick out of the car, but he's unconscious and won't wake. Just as Alice regains consciousness to kill Maggie, Nick revives. Together, Nick and Maggie shut Alice down completely. The family is safe, and Nick receives treatment at the hospital. Meanwhile, at the robot repair center, technicians restart the computers. Immediately, Alice reactivates, copies herself, and begins controlling other robots. Alice lives again. That's the end of the story. Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe.